It's now to John and Richard to take us through the next stages. John.
Okay, Richard has told me it's my show, so it's going to be my show, but without any song. Where is Spencer? Okay. I'm glad I'm at a distance from you because you're a really bad influence. Okay, I just want to speak briefly about the role of the International Centre, talk a small bit about its origins and history, its functions, its priorities for the next year, and then to raise some issues and questions for yourselves. The Centre came into existence in November 2004 with the direct support of the Ministry of Education in Ireland and that of ICCDPP, which is an agency of the European Commission based in Brussels. And so it has been hosted until recently at ICCDPP in Brussels. The Centre has the expressed support of the OECD, the World Bank and the European Commission, as well as the direct support to date of the Career Services and Ministry of Education in New Zealand, and support in kind from the Canadian Career Development Foundation in Canada. And I have to use this occasion, I'd like to use the occasion, to thank the Department for Education, Science and Training here in Australia, who facilitated my participation in this international symposium. The Centre has an executive board, several of whose members are here. It is a mix of policymakers, researchers and experts in the field. And the members who are here are Robin Bergen from DEST, Tony Watts, Garrett Dent, Lester Oakes, Raimo Vuorinen and Lynn Besançon. And members who are not here are Margaret Kelly from the Irish Ministry for Education and Science and Ed Herr from USA. Richard is the chairperson of the board and he's my immediate boss. Okay, what does the Centre set out itself to do? Well, in terms of functions, it acts as a permanent focal point internationally for articulating the links between career development and public policy. I think we all see that there's a clear need to have this on an ongoing basis because it is something that has really almost risen to consciousness over a number of years, starting with the symposia in Ottawa and in Vancouver, and then working through the OECD review of policies for career guidance. It aims to facilitate the worldwide exchange and knowledge transfer on career development public policy issues. It acts as an international resource for countries and institutions, as well as for the dear Dennises that I have to write to from time to time. But it's a resource for countries and institutions for policies and systems development for career services. It aims to promote and support international collaboration in policy-related research and the sharing of such studies and reports. And finally, and by no means least, in fact probably the main function, is to support and follow up the work of the international symposia. And as a result of your work over the last few days, it now has a heavy work program to deliver over the next 12 months or so. The first of these is the preparation of the International Symposium in Scotland in 2007. And also, might I add, to continue support for the Finnish Presidency Conference in 2006. The second part of the program in priority would be to develop and test a prototype of a global learning network which will facilitate knowledge exchange. Now, I was very touched by the comment that was made previously in terms of the communication of the need to show that knowledge exchange is two ways. between any set of countries, and that no country has all the answers. And that particularly refers to people who have a stereotyped idea that the only good ideas come from developed countries. And in that sense, the Global Learning Network, which is our aim to establish a prototype over the next few months, is an attempt to capture all of the good policy development in this area in all countries, and to make it accessible to each other. The idea of the Global Learning Network is that every country would have a national focal point which would collect this kind of information, and it would collect it in its own language, so that it would be, first of all, a resource within its country, and then through an mediated way, that it would be accessible to the international community through the use of a global learning network and working according to a template. And that's really a very important, as I see it, a very important means of exchange of knowledge and expertise and experience. The third aspect coming out of the work that you've done is exploring cultural diversity and public policy issues. I think this symposium has been tremendous, really, in introducing these aspects, which really were which were highlighted previously, but not in as a significant way as has happened here. And I think really the support of numbers and the development of your own network is a tremendous idea, and I think it really is great to restore a balance into what otherwise would be, might I describe from my table yesterday, a kind of a boys' club. The fourth work program aspect is to foster ways of developing a stronger evidence base for career development services. We had a very interesting group meeting yesterday around evidence base. We've agreed a common action on that, and that is really good work to be taken forward. And even if your country wasn't present at that meeting around evidence base, we will be circulating what we are doing to all of you, so all countries can choose to participate in this particular activity. The fifth is one that Tony mentioned previously, the question of exchanging knowledge on structures for strategic leadership and supporting the development of national leadership at the interface between career development and public policy. So that's quite an amount of work to do. Now, and that brings us onto the next issue, which is really how do we actually go about this? Well, as part of its natural organizational growth and development, the International Centre has moved out of the security of its CDFOP office space. So it's now based in a separate premise. It's no longer based within the security of the agency of the European Commission. And that's for a lot of very good reasons. And one of them being that it would take a more international than a European focus. The main resource base for the International Centre, that is the Irish government's contribution of my salary, is assured to the end of October 2007. But it needs to be, that support from the Irish government needs to be built upon through a sharing of the Centre's operational costs, which we reckon will come to about €60,000 from now to the end of 2007. It's not a lot of money in operational cost terms in Europe, but it is money that the Centre doesn't have. And that support has to be shared by other countries and institutions in order for the Centre to fulfill its functions and to achieve its work programme objectives in a meaningful way. So this is really a matter for you, for your ministries and organisations. And therefore, we're going to give a small bit of time now to you to again, make your own comments and observations. First of all, a response to the question of the sharing of the operational costs, and asking you to express this in as tentative a way as you can, because obviously you don't hold the purse strings, but you may know the people in ministries who do hold the purse strings, or in your organisation who do so, and you might even say that I'll go away and explore. The second that I would really like your comments on as well are on the potential value of the centre to your own particular country and organisational situation. Because again, it's important for us to get some kind of sense of this, because is it worthwhile? Is it worthwhile for your country, for your institution, and in what ways? Because sometimes we may think we see ways, but we don't have all the answers. You can see ways maybe that are different from ours and that are more meaningful to you. And the final one is your views on other activities that the centre could undertake, which haven't actually been listed there, or methods to achieve some of the work programme objectives set out for it. So, if you would like to make a comment on any or all of these, you now have about 10 minutes to do so.
Thank you, John. From Australia's point of view, we feel as an integral member of the international community of interest in career development that we would certainly make a contribution toward the sharing the operational costs of the centre.
Thank you very much.
Hi, John. You heard me say this last night, but just so the wider group can hear it and think about it. I think one of the things that faces us in the UK is the challenge of developing new policy often happens pretty much in a vacuum. And therefore, the sharing of news on policy developments is a service that has value for us. And I think we could look to the centre to be a news broker. The idea of a regular monthly newsletter emailed across people who'd signed up to it with, did you know this is happening in Finland, this is happening in Thailand, that sort of thing, would enable people not to get the full sense of it, but to actually know who and where to ask questions, which may be helpful to them.
Thanks. Speaking from Ireland's perspective, I just would like to clarify that Ireland is in a position to continue the secondment of the director until the 31st of October 2007, and we're very happy to do that. But looking onwards from there, Ireland certainly considers that it would be important to put the centre on a more strategic footing, particularly since the CDFOP involvement is now changing. And in order to do that, it would be important to have contributions from other countries alongside what Ireland has been able and will be able to give.
Sorry. Convinced about the added value we can have in Luxembourg from ICCDPP, except budgetary restrictions I have to wait for. We will be a partner in contribution.
Well done.
I know that support for the next symposium was one of the top work priorities on your list, John, but I wouldn't want to think in terms of support from Scotland just being about that event. We would be really anxious to see capacity built within the centre and that the work you do becomes much more visible so that we can all share in the benefits of it. And I can certainly guarantee funding from Scotland, and we can discuss the numbers when we get home.
Thank you.
John, from the New Zealand point of view, as you know, we made a financial contribution for the year just gone. I have an agreement in principle with my board about a similar financial contribution for the upcoming year and the year following, and I'll be going back to them next month about advancing that.
Thank you, Lester. I think we're...
Okay, Spencer, you have some good ideas.
John, I was just wondering, I guess this relates to 3E of the action plan communique related to leadership. And that is, does the International Center have the capacity to host visiting scholars, practitioners, policymakers who might benefit even for a brief time to be in residence at the center?
Yes, that's something that we would welcome, because the support that we're looking for here is a sharing of an operational costs, but we're also looking for support in kind in other ways, and obviously people who will seek to work with the centre in the way that you have described. Would be people who would contribute to the work programme of the centre, and so in that sense we would welcome that very much. I think you also had an idea, because you're a very modest man about your ideas, you also had the idea as well of training and of the organisation of training, and I think that's something that we're looking at and taking on board, and maybe Richard will have something to say about that.
Yes, look, one of the ideas that we've been batting around over the last few hours springs out of Tony's observation that these symposia really act as a form of high-level staff college for training leaders in career development in the countries that participate. And I mean, for me, you can see the amount of enormous learning and skill development that's going on over a short period. It's very intensive and very powerful. And we had the idea that maybe what we could do in Scotland would be to bolt on to either the front or the back of it. This is a possibility. Certainly there's nothing certain, but bolt on to either the front or the back of it a program, a staff program, development program on, for example, how to run a career service, how to manage a career service. I mean, my view is that Careers Scotland, together with Careers Wales, are two of the best examples in the world of career services able to deliver lifelong guidance for a whole range of reasons. And so an idea that we will explore with Liz and with her colleagues in Careers Wales over the forthcoming period is putting together, with support perhaps from the British Council, a package. A package that would bring together current and future leaders within career development and have, if you like, a residential staff training program. And we seek the involvement of New Zealand in this as well. Now, that's one of the sorts of ideas that we'd be exploring as a role for the centre.
Maybe another idea could be to arrange PhD seminars around research in career development, because it seems to be that people doing PhDs in career development are scattered throughout the world, and definitely in my country we're not a community of PhD scholars, and in that way the centre would also get in contact with potential contributors to the evidence base, and I think that there is a gap there that the centre could fulfill.
John, I just wanted to come back to the operational costs, and I should have stood earlier, but I guess because we talked about this yesterday, I think you probably want a public statement. From the point of view of CCDF, we've been so far giving in-kind contributions, and we've been doing formatting and working with you on the newsletters. I'm prepared to go to my board to see if they would approve what would be a very small contribution. We're very small, and we don't have a lot of money. It would be small, but it would certainly be, I'm prepared to take the request forward and see if we can provide some small financial support, as well as to continue the in-kind contribution that we've been doing to date.
Thank you, Lynn.
I feel very comfortable following up because of the word small. Because even though the United States is very large, as you've heard over and over, you know, we're starting kind of at the grassroots and really connecting with those policymakers. And so the things that we talked about as a team this morning included budget. And it included budget of how we can take some of our money and reinvest it, if you will. And so as president of NCDA, I'm prepared to go to our board on May 16th. We've already drafted a motion, and that motion will include 2 funding sources. One would be funding for what we want to start as that connectedness, you know, in our action plan. And the second was that we wanted to look at some of the funding that we have now and reinvest it, and this would be a perfect place to do that. So that will be our motion on May 16th. Can't promise anything, as everybody is looking at, but we're certainly prepared to do that.
Okay, just before I hand over to Richard as the chairperson to wrap up this session, I just wanted to come back to the idea that Garrett Dent had, and I think it was really a great idea. That is, in a sense, to ask you to contribute as almost national correspondents to let us know what is happening in your country, and to enable us to put it up on the news. I promise it won't be like Fox News, or it won't be like CNN, but it will certainly, but it will fulfill maybe something like the CIA fact book on career development and public policy. But you will have these news alerts to let you know what is happening worldwide. And for that, we can't, from a centre perspective, it's difficult for us, given the fact of different languages, it's difficult for us to know what is happening in all countries. But we would really appreciate any information that you have to keep us up to date, so that we can keep the international community up to date. Thank you.
I'm overwhelmed. I'd just like to thank all of you for your incredibly generous offers. I mean, the Centre's future till the end of 2007 is now assured, thanks to, we've got to put the dollars in place, the numbers in place, but the offers from Australia, Ireland, Luxembourg, Scotland, New Zealand, the USA and Canada is infinitely more than I'd expected, 2 or 3 I'd hoped for. I think this is an enormous tribute to John and his skills in putting together a product that you want to buy. And thank you also to Denmark, the UK and the USA for your really useful suggestions about things the Centre can do. It's up to us now to try and deliver, and I hope we can promise we will. Thank you.
Would you please thank John? Thank you.